You know,
I don't think you're supposed to talk about that outside the palace.
Really?
I think that's supposed to stay in-house, as they say, inside the palace.
You know what the Beatles said? Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she doesn't have a lot to say. But when you're with her in private time, she does have a lot to say. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Andrew Luck supports signing Jonathan Martin. Mike D'Antoni fires back at Pau Gasol. And Josh Reddick makes two incredible catches. But we begin today with the concern over Yasiel Puig as he enters his second season with the Dodgers. Not only has Puig gained 25 pounds, but according to a story on MLB.com, there are concerns that Puig is habitually the last player to arrive at practice. And after fouling a ball off his leg recently, Puig took 2 days off, which seemed like a lot. Wilbon, how concerned should the Dodgers be over Yasiel Puig?
Very. I mean, his early history is he's not particularly paying attention to coaches. He's not, whether it's the cutoff man, or what to do on off days or how to keep himself in check. And if you don't have some outsized characters in that clubhouse, you can't let a guy this young come in and be the dominant figure. That just doesn't bode well in any sport. I mean, you see some of the greatest players of all time. They come in, they say, I don't know if I can do this around grown men yet, and they gradually grow into it. This guy just seems like diva personified, and I would be very worried.
I'm going to go geopolitical on you for a little bit because I don't think you can overstate the difference between the Cuba he comes from and the United States in Los Angeles that he gets to. There's just so much more stuff here. There's cars here, there's food here, there's indulgences here. And if you're a young guy and you get lost in that and you start bathing in that because you're treated like a celebrity and paid a lot of money, that this is very, very destructive, potentially, the indulgence of all of it. I remember, and you may not be old enough to remember this, maybe you are. Martina Navratilova came here from Czechoslovakia.
I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was still under Soviet domination. And she got here, and in the first year, she gained about 30 or 40 pounds. Because she saw all this food.
There was stuff available that wasn't available to her where she was.
Ironically, she then became the most fit athlete of all time. But hockey players who came over here in the 80s.
Struggled
Remember how their
on.
wives would go to the supermarket 3 and 4 times a day because they didn't think the food would be there.
Marshallonis. So there's a cultural dynamic here, but now, Tony, we have players who come from, say, Cuba.
Yep.
And they make the transition with a little less drama than Mr. Puig.
But it depends on your personal priorities.
Yes, it does.
What do you think is most important?
You're the Dodgers. And by the way, being in L.A., being a celebrity in L.A., and if you already have the tendency to get carried away with yourself.
City of indulgence, right? Wouldn't you say?
I would say. I'd be concerned. Jonathan Martin update, Tone. Andrew Luck, who played with Martin at Stanford, says he would be 100% in favor of having Martin block for him in Indy. The Colts offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton, tight end Kobe Fleener, are also Stanford alums with the Colts. The Colts appear to be in the market for a lineman who could keep Luck upright. Tone, would signing Martin then be more distraction or addition?
I'm going to tell you that I think this is the perfect place for him to be. It's a small town, relatively speaking. It's a solid franchise, been successful most of the last 12, 15 years because of Peyton Manning and then Andrew Luck. You have the star of the team vouching for him, which you didn't have, obviously, in Miami. I'm one of those people who is not sure that Jonathan Martin is cut out for a life in the NFL. I'm not. I'm not sure he really wants to be that, and I'm not sure that every group of teammates will accept him. So there's a narrow list of places I think he can go and flourish.
San Francisco, perhaps, where his former college coach
Yes.
As last we checked, still the head coach?
And this place, and if Andrew Luck's going to vouch for him, Andrew Luck is putting his life on the line because he needs offensive linemen.
Yeah, that's true. What's interesting about this, Tony, is I think there's a small list of teams, and smaller than I thought. Because in the past few weeks, we both have talked to former players and a couple of current players and linemen who have indicated straight up that they wonder about Martin, how much he wants to play, whether he can fit in, whether they would want to take him on his teammates. And these guys come from, varied backgrounds and different teams. And you go, wow, I didn't expect that. But that seems to be the reality for Jonathan Martin, who's going to have to prove himself. And yes, if you've got Luck and you got Pep Hamilton and you got a tight end and Fleener, the more people you have around you that can help create a comfort zone, perhaps the better.
See, I think he'd be an addition. Would there be a distraction at first? Of course. I mean, but let's look at Manti Te'o. And the fake girlfriend.
It doesn't even come up.
In camp, it comes, and after that, it's gone.
You get over it to play.
That's right. So addition, second, distraction early on. Jerry West, whose main credential is only that he's the logo of the NBA, told Scott Van Pelt yesterday he has no particular faith in the much ballyhooed draft class or in the league those players are poised to enter.
Wow.
West said, quote, "This is the weakest I've ever seen this league, and we are depending on people who go to school for a year to come in and change the fortune of franchises. Everyone is talking about an incredible draft class this year. I think it's just the opposite. I think it's a poor one myself," unquote. Whew, he adds parenthetically. Wilbon, everybody said this draft class was worth tanking for. What is your reaction to Jerry West's comments?
You can have the field. I'll take Jerry West. And Jerry West is, I'm not going to say he's the best talent evaluator ever. He's the most important one, given his playing career and then his career as an executive in this league. Jerry West may be the most important voice the league has to put forth. And when Jerry West says this, first of all, Tony, this puts sort of a red alert on 2 years in college. It's coming to a league near you. So get ready for it. The union and teams and players who think they can come out of high school, it's going to be 2 years. And what Jerry West is saying is, you can't come out and affect a team the way the draft used to at the top of that draft for 15 or 20 years when guys like Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas and Hakeem Olajuwon at the top, the one pick, when they were coming out of school. He doesn't see that. I'm listening to Jerry West.
It's interesting. My takeaway from it is a Jerry West with an experience level over 60 years in basketball.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Jerry West, I think, is saying that Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins, they're not that good right now.
They're fine players and they're ready to change teams.
They're not that good. Now, see, Jerry West watched, because Jerry West was instrumental in Kobe out of high school getting his first job. He's certainly seen LeBron, and he's saying these guys are not on that level. So all you people who are tanking out there, what are you tanking for?
Well, I don't think he's speaking to them. I think he gets to them. I think he's speaking to the process here. Stop telling us that guys who've been in college for 1 year are going to keep the league where it should be or turn around a team.
Do you think the league is as bad as Jerry West thinks it is?
Well, I didn't. But Jerry West, Tony, who I had the privilege of talking to a couple of weeks ago at length, when Jerry West says this, it has gravity. This is not like a blogger saying it or like us saying it or even like an executive who's been around 10 years. This is Jerry West, 60 years of it, yes.
The theory of this is troublesome to me. The entire basis of the draft is you stink, so we're going to give you a high pick to get better right away.
But he's saying the high pick doesn't have the value that it used to have or ought to have. So what do you think Adam Silver hears, who's already in favor of 2 years minimum in college? What do you think he hears now?
But I also think he's saying the players aren't as good as they used to be.
They're not.
Players. Well, I didn't know that.
They've done it long enough. Mike D'Antoni and Pau Gasol are involved in a little dust-up. Gasol said the other day that the Lakers need more discipline, and that the source of that discipline should not be Kobe Bean Bryant. D'Antoni shot back last night. It's okay for Gasol to make that criticism, but not publicly. Quote, "The thing I don't appreciate, you just keep it in-house. But to go on to the media and do it in the papers, that's disturbing." Close quote. Tony, you with D'Antoni that Gasol's comments should have been kept in-house?
If I were a coach, I would be with D'Antoni. You don't want this out there, but I made a living on the other side of the street for a long time in the media. This is exactly what we want to hear. We want to hear a star player point a finger at a coach and say, what's this guy doing? What's his deal? That's exactly what you want to hear.
Now, if you are in a basketball capacity in any way, do you think those comments should have been kept in-house? That's not what the Lakers do. Under Phil Jackson, and to me, they're still the Lakers.
Phil Jackson aired the laundry all the time.
Always. He specifically, this was part of his agenda.
But D'Antoni doesn't operate that way.
No, D'Antoni doesn't.
He does not.
But Pau Gasol won championships and had the best years of his career under Phil Jackson. He and Kobe Bryant, they do things Phil's way. And D'Antoni is still new to this mix, and Mike is not a public person like Phil Jackson.
There's another part of this. If you're Pau Gasol, and every week for the last 2 to 3 years, you read that you're being traded.
That's right.
This is a half-hour show. We spent 100 hours talking about where Pau Gasol is going to land.
That's right.
I think he's probably bitter at Kupchak and probably bitter at D'Antoni, but he can only take a shot at D'Antoni, so he does that because you get tired of reading you're going to be traded.
I think that's a great point. If you're Pau Gasol, you're saying, what have I done? But since being traded here, help you people win 2 championships, get to the finals another time, and all you do is look to trade me for a ham sandwich.
Right.
Shut up. Get some discipline around
like the
here.
Mamba.
Well,
Give me some of that Mamba.
Not like the Mamba. Maybe not with that much respect.
Oakland A's outfielder Josh Reddick opened up spring training yesterday by making 2 fabulous catches in right field, boosting himself onto the outfield wall and going over to bring back 2 different home runs. Reddick's teammate, Nick Punto, said the first catch was simply the greatest catch he had ever seen. Wilbon, can the greatest catch ever be made in a spring training game?
Tony, my first reaction was no, stop overrating it, stop overstating it. And then I thought about it. Yeah, it can be. And I think about the stories in books I've read and stories you hear anecdotally covering baseball that go back almost 100 years now to like barnstorming tours in the winter where Babe Ruth would go south and play against the Negro Leagues, and they had to do it in Cuba or Puerto Rico or someplace because they couldn't even do it in the South in the United States where it was against the law. And they talked about some of the home runs hit by the likes of Josh Gibson or something Satchel Paige did or something Ruth did in those games. And Cool Papa Bell would talk about it. And you go, you know what? These things were great, and it doesn't diminish them that they didn't happen in the major leagues.
Yeah, see, I think I'm going to differentiate between a great catch and a great hit. I think a great catch is an art form, and the greatest catch could happen anywhere. I remember the pictures last year from the guy in the Japanese league making an unbelievably great catch. A great hit is about circumstance. The greater the pressure, the greater the hit, I think, than a catch. Now, if this happens in the 7th inning, you know, or the 9th inning of Game 7 in the World Series, then it becomes the greatest catch ever. But until that comes along, I'm going to stay with this. This is an unbelievably great catch.
It was the first catch was better than the second catch.
Yeah.
It looked like no matter where you do this, the physical athleticism, concentration, poise, balance, all the things required to make that catch, you can't just say, oh, it doesn't count.
No, it counts.
Because it didn't happen in July.
I mean, sometimes it matters the player who does it. Like Derek Jeter makes a great play. If Chuck Knobloch makes that play, you don't remember it quite as long.
Maybe so.
But this catch is
spectacular.
Let's take a break. Coming up, how does Greg McDermott annoy his son Doug? And does Doug ever curse around Greg? We're going to ask him.
And later, the Eagles show Riley Cooper the dollar bills, y'all.
We didn't have that happening.
Well, we didn't know his contract was coming up, did you?
Well, we didn't have him staying with the Eagles, did we? It's fairly common for a dad to coach his son's team. What's not too common is for that team to be ranked 9th in the country and for the son to be the leading candidate for National Player of the Year. We welcome Creighton's Greg and Doug McDermott to the show. We're going to start with this. Greg, you are paying your son's tuition this season so you could fit another scholarship player on the team. Doug, are you going to pay your dad back down the road?
Maybe someday. You know, I'm just enjoying it. You know, a lot of the teammates give me crap, you know, sometimes being a walk-on, but you know, I'm able to live off campus because of it, so it's been a pretty good deal for me.
Walk on.
Greg, you ripped your son verbally during one game against Wichita State in his sophomore season. That clip has been well circulated. People have seen it. How does it make you feel when you see it or when people reference it?
Well, my wife let me have it when I got home that night. So, you know, it was one of those situations, and that was a period of time during Doug's career where he was our best player, yet he didn't understand everything that went with being the best player. And that, you know, the standards and the expectations that we have of you as our best player are different than everyone else. And, you know, he wasn't playing defense and blocking out quite like I wanted to that game. It was a very emotional game. And, you know, I got after him a little bit, but everybody thought maybe we didn't talk for a week or so, but everything was fine after the game.
Greg, what is something you do now when you've got a star player that you harp on him about to make him an even better player, particularly as he goes to this next level?
Well, you know, I think the main thing when Doug made the decision to come back to college this year, one of the things that we talked about is if you're going to come back, 2 things have to happen. Number one, you have to make sure you enjoy it. And then secondly, make sure you get better. Let's work hard to get better. And obviously I'm constantly trying to, you know, harp on him about the things that maybe aren't as important to most players, the attention to detail on defense and positioning on defense. And Doug's an elite scorer, and that comes natural to him. And obviously we need him on the floor to score a lot of points for us, so we can't have him in foul trouble. But I'm doing everything I can to try to make him a better defensive player and then have him pick his spots offensively to really be on the attack for us.
Doug, conversely, everybody loves their father at some point coaching them, but at this stage, there's got to be something he does that annoys you. Let us in on something. Is there something that you just can't stand that he does all the time?
You know, just sometimes hearing his voice every day gets a little old. You know, we're watching film as a team, and it's the same stuff I heard, you know, when I was growing up in high school. So just little things like that. But, you know, it's been good. You know, we're on our last year together, so we're just trying to enjoy it now.
There have been great basketball players in the past, like Pete Maravich, who played for his dad. Almost every dad coaches his son on some level, even if it's Little League. What I'm curious about is, do you call him dad? Do you call him coach? Or do you not call him anything at all because it's just easier to stand near him and talk to him because you don't know what to call him?
That's exactly what I do. I really don't call him anything. I just try to get his attention in any different way. In my phone, I actually have him in as Coach Mac. So, you know, not in as dad. I just have him in there as coach, and I don't know if that'll ever change.
Unless he wants some money. If he needs a little bit of a loan, then he calls me dad in a hurry.
Can you curse around your father? If you make a bad play or if you think the coach has done something dumb, can you curse?
I can. I think we've established that. You know, we're both allowed to curse around each other when we're in between those four lines. But when I'm at home around my younger sister, my mom, that probably needs to stay out of the house.
Doug, your dad referenced the decision to stay in school, come back for a senior year as opposed to going to the NBA. How difficult was that decision for you?
It was pretty difficult. You know, I was torn between whether to come back or to go. You know, it's always been a dream of mine to play in the NBA. But, you know, I also never thought I'd have it like this, where I'm playing for my dad in college and, you know, having a good career. So I talked to a lot of people, you know, people that have been through the same decision. And at the end of the day, I thought you can't put a price tag on that senior year of college. So I'm really happy with the decision I made.
Greg, how did you get the news that he was staying? Did you like knock on the bedroom door and say, hey, what's the deal here? Or did he ultimately just come to you and tell you?
No, we had spent a lot of time that last week leading up to the decision day and really went through a lot of information and compared a lot of things, compared last year's draft to this year's draft and where we thought Doug might fall in each of the drafts. And then, you know, listening to Doug speak both from his heart and then from his mind, and it was clear to me that even though there's a lot of things in his mind that were telling him to go, at the end of the day, his heart wanted him to stay. So when he came into the office and we had that discussion and he said, well, if that's the case, I might as well stay. And, you know, I made sure I spread the news as quickly as possible before he changed his mind.
Thank you so much for joining us both here, and continued good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
We're taking a break. When we come back, an update on the Super Bowl situation in Arizona.
And a fond farewell to the sole of Manu Ginobili's shoe.
Did you see that?
I saw that. That was weird.
Think?
Pardon the Interruption is presented by the new Captain Morgan White Rum. Raise your glass. Always in moderation. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 31st birthday, Kate Mara. Kate, who you'll know from House of Cards, is the older sister of Rooney Mara, the star of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Her famous grandparents own the Steelers and the Giants. And Kate has it written into her contracts that should either team make the Super Bowl, she is excused from work to go see it.
I know the parents are proud of the sister, Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Would you have seen that if your daughter was in that role in Dragon Tattoo?
Brutal. That's
tough,
brutal. A not-so-happy anniversary, Steve Buckhantz. On this day last year, the Wizards' longtime play-by-play man and our dear friend made his signature dagger ball, not realizing that Trevor Ariza shot an air ball to end the game.
Dagger!
The reason Buckhantz missed it is because he and Phil Chenier, his color guy, were seated about 27 sections away from the court so the team could sell their normal seats.
Buckhantz, to his credit, said, the dagger has been retracted.
Happy trails to Manu Ginobili's left sneaker. The veteran Spurs guard planted hard on his left foot while on defense, and boom, his Nike shoe split open, ended up somewhere around his ankle. This is not at all what Nike was looking for when they let Mars Blackman say, money, it's got to be the shoes.
This is what happened when Bobby Moore was testing out the shoes some 40 years ago
At
for
Oregon.
Phil Knight. How about that? That would happen then. Less acceptable now.
A shoe explosion?
That would be Ahmad Rashad for those keeping score at home, Bobby Moore.
Time to find out we messed up reality.
Happy trails, Boogie Cousins, 1-game suspension, also fined $20,000 for punching Patrick Beverly and yelling at a referee the other night. Ryan Braun homered in the second pitch he saw this spring training, coming off his suspension, right? Talked about it yesterday. Adam Dunn will attend the Oscars this weekend, and in true Miami Marlins fashion, their team president, David Sampson, he was on Survivor. First guy out, boom. Jeff Probst called it the earliest hook ever.
Serious.
Worst performances in the history of Survivor.
That is a weak squad. Think that
Let's do it.
the Super Bowl will not be moved from Arizona after the governor vetoed that proposed anti-gay bill. Your thoughts?
Thank God reason prevailed. Tiger Woods shot a 1-over par 71 in the first round of the Honda. You still good cop on him winning that one?
I may have to rethink this position.
I think so.
Because now he's actually in danger of missing the cut.
Yeah.
And I had him winning.
It's early. It's early.
Yeah. The Thunder have lost 3 in a row since Russell Westbrook returned. Is that
proud
a
of you for that.
coincidence?
Not really. I told you they got to work him back in. It's going to take a while. I could see him going 5 and 6. Then they'll turn him. The Eagles signed Riley Cooper to a 5-year, $25 million deal. Surprised by those numbers?
I am, but clearly his teammates and his organization worked real hard with this, as did he.
They worked.
Especially Michael Vick.
They worked. They got
who
it
tried
right.
to put that
Yep.
thing together.
Absolutely.
Last one, Knicks and Heat. Who you got in this match?
I know the Knicks are 4-2 against the Heat since last year, best team of any record against Miami. You're a Nets fan? No. LeBron, mask, Miami's on a roll. They want this.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
Not letting your Knicks get in the way. I'm Mike Wilbon.